Polyline drawing exercise. I've opened the polyline drawing from the D2L by downloading that information. And as you can see from the drawing, we have these different polyline shapes. I'm going to go and enable the toolbar. So I'll hide the toolbar, show the menu bar. Now that I have the menu bar enabled, you can see that I have my commands that I can work with. And so if I go to Tools, Draft and Settings, Snap and Grid, I can turn the snap on and the grid on. I can enable polar tracking. And then for this drawing, I'm not going to use object snap, at least not yet. Oh, actually, I think I will do that. Let's leave object snap on, and we'll have that. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to switch over to the object line layer, and I'm going to create a polyline, just like the one here just above it. So what I'll do is I'll start here, I'll bring this over, this up. And each of these is ½ inch. And then when I get to this point, I like to type C for close, and I'll close off that polyline. If I click on it and right click and go to Quick Properties, it will tell me that it is a polyline. Once I have one polyline drawn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it over 4 times, and then I'm going to modify it. And so I'm going to say copy, I'm going to select it, and hit enter. I'm going to copy it from here. Here, they don't have to line up perfectly. You can move them afterwards. Just like that. And so now I have multiple copies of these different polylines. So the first one, all we wanted to do was to create the polyline. And the second one, I'm going to create a 1/8 inch chamfer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under the fill command, I'm going to select chamfer, down arrow, distance. It's already set for 0.125, but I can always type it in again. 0.125 for the first line I touch, 0.125 for the second line. And then as I select these lines, I can repeat this chamfer command. I'm going to hit escape and undo that and show you a faster way. And so since they're polylines and they're shapes, we can fill in or chamfer all of the edges all at once. So if I go to chamfer and I hit down arrow, polyline, and then I select it, since it already has the distances programmed in it, we'll make all the polylines 0.125. And then I can find the area. This is an older way of finding the area, but I'll show that to you. If I type in list, enter, and then select the polyline, it will tell me that there are 12 lines, one object found. If I hit enter, then it gives me all the information about that. It tells me that the area is 1 point, it kind of jumped on me. Let's see if I can, there it is, 1.218. And I think I can just copy and paste this, Control C, Control V. And there's my area. I'm just going to put this off to the side. So that's the chamfer calculation. A better way to calculate out the area is to go to the area command and then choose object. And then when I select that object, it tells me that it's 1.2188. and it's visual. It's a more modern command. And so as you work with these AutoCAD commands, there are ones that are easier to use, and the area command is better. And again, you know, we could come in here and get that information. If I hit the F2 key, it gives me a reflection of what I just did, F2. And I could then copy that information, Control C, Control V, and it gives me the perimeter information as well. I realize the text is kind of big at this point. You can always scale it. But for right now, I'm just going to continue to move along with that. So that's the area command. I'm just going to delete that one. Let's calculate the area on the first one, okay? And so if I were to scale this down, well, we'll leave that for now. Again, to do the area, I can go measure, area, down arrow, object, and then I select my polyline. And it says that the area is 1.2500. And that makes sense. It's a little bit larger because we didn't chamfer that object. And so if I want to, I can go into the command line and get F2, or you can just write it down on a piece of paper and type it in. Just going to get the area part. Control C, Control V. So that's my first area. This is my second area. Now on the third one, we're going to fill it 0.125. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up to the fillet command, down arrow, radius, 0.125, enter. And then I can either go through and fill in each of the lines, or I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to use the fillet object, or polyline, excuse me. I'll select that. Doesn't want to do it. Let's try it again. I'm not sure why it's switching up. It is a polyline. And I am getting through it. Could be that my radius isn't set up. That's why. So it was dipping it, but it was a radius of 0.125. And now when I go through and we select polyline, we get our polyline. And again, find the area. Okay, so we can go through. You know, I'll just go to my utility commands and I'll say area, down arrow, object. It tells me the area is 1.2366. 2. Control C, Control V, and I'll just put a picture next to it. And then for this one, this is another older command because you can give a polyline a width and you can add that to the polyline, but we have line widths now. And so if I say p-edit, and then I select the polyline, and I select width, I can now set the width at 0.125. And so it allows us to add widths, which we didn't have years ago. We used to have pen plotters and you have to actually line up the pens with them. Now the last one with the vertices moving is really just a matter of using grips. So I can click on it. You want to make sure your snap and grid are enabled. So if you type in snap, you can just check to see that it's on. And when I click on these, I can snap with the grid enabled, create that basic shape. And so we can edit the vertices with it. All right. And then as we go through and we create the Displays Campus link, we're going to use the sketch command. And so I'm just going to change colors just so that we can see it. I think I'll use this shade of purple. And what I will do is I will use the sketch command. I don't need the grid and the snap for this. So I'm going to go and turn off grid and snap. I don't need polar tracking. I do want object snap. Actually, I will set it up to be on endpoint so that it goes back to the point of origin. And I'll say OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in sketch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the increment level at 0.05, very small value. And then when I draw with this command, I'm just going to draw. I'm going to click the mouse button. I'm going to hold it or let go. And what it's doing right now is it's creating all these short segment polylines. And they're all endpoint to endpoint at 0.05. So I'll bring this around like a topology map. Up until about here. And then I'll let go and enter. And then if I want to, I can click on it and close it off with the click. So that's all there is to that. It's just the sketch command showing you that the sketch command works with these polylines. You need to make sure that when you use the sketch command, that you set the increment level. So the increment level here, if I set it really high, like 0.2, when I draw the sketch command. And these are all 0.2 in there. So it's choppy. That's all. And so years ago, people used to go through and trace drawings, topology maps, and things like that. We don't need that little island. We're going to then create this spline here. To create the spline, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create points according to this XY table. And it's just a way of using AutoCAD to do some things that we can do other things with. And so what I'm going to do is in the utilities, I'm going to go to point style, and I'm going to set an absolute point size of 0.2, say 0.25. And I want to pick a style that I can see, so I'll choose this one right here. And I'll say OK. And then I'm just going to by eye draw a point at 0.00. So if I put that right there, you can see that. I'm going to turn off my own snap. Then I'm going to draw another point at 1.03. So that's about, make it a little right there. 0.3 would be at 2. So here's 0.3, 2. And 0.1 was at 0.03. 0.2, I think I did it at 3. Should be at 1.0. There we go. 0.3 is at 2.0. 0.4 is at 2.75. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. 0.5 is at 2.5, so here's 0.5. Say 2.5 is about here. 0.6, 1.0. 0.7, 0.25. And 0.8 back at 0. And so what I've done is I've learned how to use points to put them into a graph pattern. And you could certainly set the user coordinate system to absolute coordinates and make it perfect. But for this example, we just want to be able to draw a line with an O snap set for node. And so under object snap settings, I'm going to turn off endpoints, and I'm only going to turn on node. And I'm going to say, okay, snap and grid don't need to be on. Polar tracking doesn't need to be on. Just O snap for node. Okay. And then when I draw a spline, what I'll do is I'll draw it from node, node. Hit enter to complete that construction. It looks slightly different. You have these little curves that you can go through and manipulate them with. It's the construction process that we're looking for. And then lastly, this is probably the hardest one, is to create a polyline with these curves. And if I loop this up, it might be, we don't have to make it exactly perfect like this, but I'll just show you how this works. So to start off this one, we'll start off with a polyline. And we'll set the start point of the polyline like right here. And then we'll hit down arrow and we'll say arc. And then we'll hit down arrow and we'll say width. And I'll start the width at 0.25, enter. And I'll end the width at 0.2, enter. And then as I draw this polyline arc, it's going to start to taper. And then I'll hit the down arrow and I'll select width. I'll leave it at 0.2. And then I'll type in 0.15, enter. And it's still in the arc command, so it starts to taper again. Click again, down arrow, width, 0.15, 0.1, enter. Click, down arrow, width, leave it at 0.1, 0.05, enter. Click, down arrow, with 0.05 and 0. Enter. Terminate. So that's a tricky way to use polyline and width. All right. So lastly, make sure you put your student name on that. You can just double click on that and you can put your name here. Leave the scale set up at full. This is an older title block, so we'll just leave this in model space. We'll do a save as. Save it as your initials. Leave the word student drawing in there. And then I'll navigate to my USB. Module 4. All right, I'm going to stop this video.